Hi everyone, and welcome to my December-January mashup wrap-up. I'm going to show you all the books that I've read the last 2 months. They're quite a lot, and most of them are books that I got for Christmas or bought myself in December. So I already talked about a few in my previous video. I'll link it at the end where I show you all the books that I bought last month. I'll be going through some of them quite quickly because I already talked about them a little, but there are actually some books that I didn't buy this month that I also read. So let's get started. This is in random order because I can't remember which books I read first. Let's start with Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. I already talked about this one in my previous video. It's by Benjamin Saez. Probably mispronouncing that. I thought this was a really cleverly written book. I really liked it and I really recommend it. Another book is Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. I was really excited to read this book and it didn't let me down. I thought it was amazing. It was a little bit disturbing at times, but not too bad. So if you're easily scared and you think this might be a scary book, it's not. It's doable. It's okay. And I had a lot of fun reading this. The Watcher in the Shadow by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. Also talked about this one in my other video. This is going to be a short one maybe. So yeah, it was a really good book. I really recommend it. It's about a toy maker and a mystery, so what more do you need? I also finally read Animal Farm by George Orwell. I have this creepy looking weird version of it. That's yeah, not the prettiest version I know, but I got this on a yard sale, I think for 25 cents. And it's a really thin book, but I really liked it. It really made me think. I've seen the movie before in history class and I liked the movie and I'm glad I finally read the book. So if you were hesitating, if you want to read this book, I really recommend it because it was fun to read. Another book that I read recently is The Tent by Margaret Atwood. A lot of people have been telling me that she is an amazing writer and that I should read her books, and I'm planning to. I got this one on the Book of Festijn, which is a book fair where you get really cheap books. This is a short story collection. Some of the stories didn't do it for me. Some I really didn't like, others were okay, and some I really liked. So it was kind of mixed feelings, but they're really short, so if I didn't like them, at least they were over quickly, and the ones that I did like were really fun to read. Ayla and Happily Ever After, which is part 3 in the Anne and French Kiss series. I've been waiting ages for this book and I really enjoyed it. It's about Ayla and Josh from Anne and the French Kiss, so you get to know way more about him, and I thought Ayla was a really great and funny character and I absolutely loved this book. I also read The Shock of the Fall by Nathan Filer. I really liked this book. It was a bit darker than the other books I read, or not really darker, but not really as light and fun. That's what dark means. Great job, Noortje. It talked a lot about mental health, which I think needs to be talked about more, so I thought that was really good. And I really liked reading it and slowly finding out what happened and how he ended up in a mental health facility, which is where he's writing this book from. The character, not the actual author. And I really recommend it. I thought it was a really good book. Murder Most Unladylike, which is the best title ever. The second book of this series is also out, and I think the third book of this series is out in March, or pretty soon at least. The first book was amazing. It's a detective mystery series where two girls solve mysteries together, and they find a body and then the body's gone, so they have to solve the murder and prove that there was a murder to begin with. And I thought it was really cleverly written, it was funny, and it was really easy to read, so I really recommend this series. I also finally got around to reading The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I really love this book, and this is a gorgeous copy. It's not mine, unfortunately. I like that the pages are black. I thought that the inside was pretty and has its own bookmark, which I really love. This is actually my dad's copy, but I really like this book. It was a bit weird in the beginning. I had to get used to it. What I really liked was that every little chapter is from a different point of view, and they also jump around in time a bit, so at times you get really confused, and then at the end everything clicks together and you start to get things, and I thought it was so cleverly written. It must have taken ages to figure all this out, and I really recommend it to everyone. It was a really good book. I also read Miss Potter. I absolutely love this movie. It always makes me want to create something, either write or paint or draw or who knows what. If you love the movie, I definitely recommend the book, but it's pretty similar to the movie in the way that it's basically the movie in print, but with some extra things in there, some extra background stories and some more of her thoughts of what she really thought of things. And I thought it was a really good addition to the movie, but don't watch and read them too closely together. I finally read The Return of the King. I'm really ashamed that I haven't read the Lord of the Rings trilogy earlier, because I absolutely love the Lord of the Rings movies. They're actually my favorite movies of all time, and I hadn't read the book yet. But to my defense, the language is pretty difficult. Well, not really difficult, but it's a bit old-fashioned on purpose. And I found that really hard to read when I tried to read them when I was like 13 or 14, I think. I also found it a bit boring because it took me a really long time to get through them, because my English wasn't that good yet. So for a while I just never really felt like picking them up. But then slowly over the past 2-3 years, I've read part 1, I've read part 2, and I really loved them. And I went really fast through part 3 because a lot of things differ from the movie in this one. In all of them, of course, but this one especially, I think. And I'm more used to the language, and because I study English, I had to read stuff like Beowulf and Chaucer and Shakespeare, so this seemed really easy to me now. I really liked seeing all the things that Peter Jackson changed and knowing more about what happens after the movie ends, and the differences between the end of this book and the end of the movies were pretty big with the Shire and everything. But I really loved it, and if you haven't read the books yet but like the movies, I recommend them. I also read The Crystal Cave by Mary Stuart. This is also my dad's copy. He really recommended this book to me. My dad is pretty much obsessed with Merlin stories and King Arthur stories, and I'm too, probably because my dad is. I really enjoyed this book. It starts out with Merlin being really small and shy and not really what you expect from the great Merlin, and then it shows how he grows up and how he becomes the wizard that he is in all the myths, and how some things are just simple and not magic at all, and people turn it into something magical. I thought that was really clever and really fun to read, because this seems really realistic, like it could actually have happened, and it just changed over time into this legend about magic and things. It was all just tricks or mathematics, and he was just a really clever guy and they made him magical. But anyway, I really loved this book. It was a really fast read and fun read, and it was interesting all the way through, and I can't wait to read part 2. Fire and Hemlock by Deanne Wynne Jones. I really like this book. It was a bit of a mystery because you don't really get what's really going on, neither does the main character, but you kind of just go with it like she does, and it's really fun to read, and I read it really fast, and I loved how at the end everything came together and you finally understood what was going on, and I really recommend this book. It was great. It's not my favorite of Deanne Wynne Jones, but my favorite is House Moving Castle, and I don't think any book can top that from hers, and it's one of my favorite books ever. So another book from her is 8 Days of Luke. I really like this book because it's about the Norse gods and everything, and I was always really into Norse gods. I used to be really into Egypt, and then it kind of changed into different legends, and one of them were the Norse gods, and I absolutely loved Loki from the beginning. Which is pretty weird, but I just love Loki. I think I read a book about him once when I was a kid, where he was like this prankster and this really fun guy, and he is the prankster, of course. But ever since then I've loved Loki, and Luke is actually Loki, and he helps out David, who lives with his horrible family and accidentally frees Loki from his prison. Loki tells him he's called Luke, and slowly David figures out that Luke has magic, fire magic, and isn't really the nicest of kids. He is to him, but he's mischievous and will set a fire just to enjoy himself, even though people could get hurt. But I really like this, and the other characters also come into it, but in different disguises, so it was really fun to figure out who was who before David figured it out himself. So, especially if you love Norse mythology, I recommend this book, but even if you don't, it's a really fun read, and it's pretty thin, unfortunately, so you'll probably get through it really quick. I also read Peter Nimble and His Fantastic Eyes by Jonathan Auxier? No idea. By Jonathan. It was a really fun book to read. I had no expectations whatsoever going into this book. It's been on my shelf for a while, but basically it's about this kid who's blind, and in this world blind kids are really talented, like they can hear really well and sometimes even sort of sense what's around them. So he makes the perfect thief. Apparently blind kids are the perfect thieves in this world. And one day he finds himself with a wizard who has a note that the heroes needed to save this faraway kingdom, and he thinks that Peter Nimble is the perfect guy for it because the hero also has to be a thief. And it's all about his adventures, and I thought it was a really great book. It's probably for kids, but who cares how old you are? I really recommend this book. The Bane Chronicles! I've read the first few stories in this collection of short stories already as ebook. I haven't read the last ones yet, and I absolutely love those. I think I love those the most because it had Alec in it and Magnus, of course, and I just really love them. So it was fun to read and to learn more about them. It was a fun, hilarious book. Some of the short stories are better than other short stories, but overall the whole book is great. And if you love the series, if you love the Mortal Instruments or the Clockwork Angel series, then I really recommend this book as well. I also read If I Stay because I really loved the movie, and I thought the book was a great addition to the movie. You learn more about it. Some things are completely different in the movie. Most of the additions they made in the movie I really liked. Keeping those in mind, it was a great read because you got to know more about other things here, so now you have the complete picture, and I really recommend it. I also finally read Reflections on the Magic of Writing by Diane Wynne Jones. This is actually the reason why I really had to buy 8 Days of Luke and Fire and Hemlock right away, because she keeps talking about them in this book. And I've read a lot of her books, but I hadn't read those two yet, so I got really curious and just had to read them. This book is filled with essays about writing. There's an essay on Lord of the Rings, for instance, and an essay about how she starts to write, what she thinks about writing. You learn a lot more about her life as well. Some things are repeated throughout the book because they are separate essays or speeches that she made throughout the year. So of course she's going to repeat some stories. If that annoys you, just skip those parts, but it didn't annoy me at all, and I thought it was a great book. If you're a fan of hers, I definitely recommend it, and if you're a fan of writing, I also recommend it. It's not a how to write, but it does have a lot of tips in it, and it gave me inspiration to pick up writing again, because I always slack off when it's not NaNoWriMo time. I'm actually wearing my, you can't really see it, I'm wearing my NaNoWriMo winner t-shirt. Because I did actually win this year. I managed to get 50,000 words, and I thought it was really great of myself. But after NaNoWriMo, I usually tend to kind of stop writing. So this book was great to get me back on the writing track again. I also read The Girl Online by Zoe Suck. I made a separate video about this, which I will link at the end of this video. So if you want to know more about this book, which was a great read, check out that video. And last but not least, I read The Cabinet of Wonders by Marie Rutkowski, or something like that. I thought this was a great book. It was not what I expected. I hadn't really expected much, but it wasn't this. By I hadn't expected much, I mean I had no expectations because I had no idea what the book was about. I tend to buy these books and they lie on my shelf for ages, and then I really like just grabbing them without reading the cover again, because I know that I liked it, because otherwise I wouldn't have bought it, and that way I have no idea what the book is going to be about, and that makes for wonderful surprises. This one is about a clockmaker who makes one of the most fantastic clocks ever, I believe in Prague, and then the prince who commissioned the clock takes out his eyes so that he can't make another clock like it, and because he wants the eyes for himself, because with a magic spell he can put them in and then hopefully see what the clockmaker sees, so that he'll be able to do it himself. The daughter of the clockmaker, she didn't like that, so she decided to set out to Prague, get into the castle, and she's trying to steal back her father's eyes, which I thought was really weird but amazing, and it was a really fun and great imaginative read, and I really recommend this book. Those were all the books that I read these past 2 months. Quite a lot, but I had a lot of free time on my hands because I haven't been feeling so well. I really hope that you like this video. If there are any books that you want to know more about, that you would like me to make a separate video about, please let me know in the comments down below. And I hope to see you soon with a new video. If you really like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos from me about books, then please subscribe.